Hey, welcome back everyone. Something that we pride ourselves on is covering hyper-local content in and around Blacksburg, especially when it relates to the real estate market. And today we're diving into another pressing issue for Virginia Tech, and it's one that's caused quite a stir in the last Board of Visitors meeting in August, and that's the Virginia Tech athletics budget and the large gap that it faces in the coming years to keep Virginia Tech athletics relevant on a national stage. We'll look then at what it means not just for the university, but also for the wider Virginia Tech community, including Blacksburg and the New River Valley real estate market. So let's kick things off. How did we get here? Whew, that's a loaded question. Now, Virginia Tech Athletics, which is the athletic arm of the university, so think basketball, football, Olympic sports like track and field and swimming. Now, Virginia Tech Athletics has historically taken a rather conservative approach to their budget, and it's this kind of we do more with less resources type of attitude. And that's where we get the classically famous lunch pail, if you're familiar with Virginia Tech football. So the lunch pail blue collar mentality, which is we go to work for our success, and that's the type of mindset. But in recent years, with many changes happening in the collegiate athletics landscape, that mindset has gotten Virginia Tech into a bit of trouble, you could say. So athletic director Whit Babcock recently presented to the Virginia Tech Board of Visitors. Now that's the governing authority for Virginia Tech, and he was outlining where Virginia Tech currently stands and what he believes it's going to take to make Virginia Tech athletics a more competitive, relevant, powerhouse athletics program that it once was and that the Board of Visitors probably expects it to be. Now, in his presentation, Whit outlined that this past fiscal year, Virginia Tech Athletics Department ran with an operating budget of around $122 million. Now, this year that we're currently in, they're projecting their budget to be around $144 million. So that $122 million budget placed Virginia Tech at 14th out of 18th ACC schools and the last among ACC public institutions. Now, who's at the top of that list, you might ask? Clemson and Florida State. Schools that are spending big money, but also seeing great success on the playing field and in their universities. Now, the athletics program, particularly football and men's basketball, has been ranking at the bottom end of many of the categories, from TV viewership to student fees for athletics programming to institutional support. And that's a sharp disparity compared to what athletic director Whit Babcock believes is needed to be competitive, which is approximately $200 million. That's a $56 million shortfall. Now, Whit presented on some of the ways to bridge this gap, including asking the Board of Visitors for institutional support, and aka money from the university to support the athletics program directly, which a lot of schools provide. So why is this gap suddenly so critical? Now, the landscape of college sports has fundamentally shifted due to a handful of things, including new revenue sharing rules, which is stemming from that historic, famous NCAA settlement, and now that allows athletic departments to pay $20.5 million to athletes. Also, because the ACC's revenue distribution model, which gives money to schools based on TV viewership of their sports and their on-field success. That means with each win and every broadcast appearance, it directly impacts revenue. Now, Virginia Tech football program, which once was high-performing, hasn't consistently reached a 9-win season since 2012. Since then, it's just happened twice, most recently in 2017, which limits the TV exposure and the financial upside that they can generate. And all of this creates a new arms race, not in facilities, but in budget and resource. As Babcock warned, unless Tech radically leaps forward now, it risks being left behind for years to come. So let's shift gears from this micro look at athletics to Virginia Tech as a whole and the community, and ask ourselves the question, how does this budget gap ripple through Blacksburg and the regional real estate market? Now, first, Virginia Tech athletics is a major economic driver in the New River Valley. VT completed a study in 2015 that estimated that football alone contributes to $69 million annually to the region's economy. So think hotels, dining, retail, gas. Now, that was 10 years ago. So adjusted for inflation, that's over $95 million for 6 or 7 home football games a year, which is crazy. So in 2015 numbers, though, that's about $5.9 million in visitor spending on hotels, about $5 million used at local restaurants, about $2.9 million at gas stations for fuel and other items, $2.6 million in retail, and that's all from game day visitor spending. But it's not just the money coming in that's impacting us. So yes, the better Virginia Tech football does, the more that number increases with increased demand for an amazing Blacksburg weekend experience. But our athletics program success isn't just about X's and O's, wins and losses. There have been countless studies done across the country showing a positive correlation between a university's athletic program and their football team and admissions interest. Now, as I talked about in my last video, Virginia Tech has seen a record-breaking number of applications year over year. And our football team, or even men's basketball team for that matter, hasn't exactly been killing it on the field or in the court. So one could argue against that for Tech specifically, but I believe you can absolutely make an argument that the more success on national TV would mean more demand for a Virginia Tech education and experience. But one important note here, if Virginia Tech Athletics is requesting additional funding from the university, where's that money going to come from? Well, in my last YouTube video, we talked about the halted 5,000 bed project on campus, which was known as the Student Life Village, and the recently approved 600 bed project to take its place. Now, if funds are moved around from projects like these that would add more residence halls to Virginia Tech's campus, and instead they're reallocated to athletics, well, that could put a strain on the Blacksburg rental and even single-family home real estate markets with rippling effects throughout the region. So what are some other implications of all this on the Blacksburg and New River Valley real estate markets? Well, the kind of consistent economic activity that comes as a result of Virginia Tech athletics only increases demand for housing, both for rental units for students and visitors, as well as homes for staff and service industry workers. And if athletics becomes less successful or game attendance drops, well, that could lead to a lower rental demand. It could lead to slower appreciation in the housing prices, and it could lead to a cooling off of new development in both residential and short-term lodging markets. So I think we ought to be asking the question about the future financial stress and the community impact of all these decisions. Because if Virginia Tech can't close this budget gap, I think there are some potentially real risks. First, reduced athletic performance could lead to fewer visitors, which would shrink local business revenue, lower student and staff morale, which could potentially affect their residential market stability and property investment markets. Also, a delay or reduction in new development, especially in multifamily and hospitality sectors. So essentially, the financial health of Virginia Tech's athletic department is closely tied to the vibrancy of the Blacksburg and NRV housing markets. Now, for the community, it's equally important to advocate for a strong athletic support, not just school pride, but also for the regional economic resilience and housing market stability that it provides. So wrapping up, to recap, Virginia Tech faces a significant athletics budget gap, currently operating between that $122 to $144 million mark, but needing about $200 million to compete effectively in the ACC. The financial shortfall has broader consequences, potentially affecting TV revenue, student fees, and athletic performance. And the impact extends beyond campus, putting stress on the economic and real estate ecosystem of Blacksburg and the New River Valley. So the path forward requires community engagement and strategic decision-making, both from university and local stakeholders. So grab your popcorn, because it will be interesting to see how this conversation unfolds between athletics and the Board of Visitors. But for now, thanks for tuning in. And if you found this deep dive between the university's finances and the local real estate dynamics helpful, please like, subscribe, and share your thoughts or questions in the comments below. Now, whether you're a real estate investor, a Hokie fan, a local resident, this matters for all of us. And if you're considering a move to Blacksburg or the New River Valley, please reach out. My contact information is on the screen, and I would love to help you win with real estate. Go Hokies!